No hipsters.
No hipsters.
No hipsters pod.
Episode 60, No Hipsters Pod. It's your boy Ronte, the founder of NoHipstersLaw.com. And this week, our co-host is my boy, Eddy Lee. Say what's up.
Eddy Midnite, nigga.
Eddy Midnite, right. I forgot it was your street name, of course. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah, my street name. I'm down. I'm down with
Right. Welcome, Eddy. You're the co-host of No Parking on Sundays. Tell the people a little bit about your podcast.
You were a part of it. Shit.
Yeah, of course. Yes. I was the co-host once upon a time.
It's a music-driven podcast. We talk about a lot of different topics, but I think during COVID, topics kind of switched up a little bit since music was in the forefront of what people were doing. So we kind of touch on social situations and things happening. We just kind of have fun with it. But we try to stay with the music. But, of course, artists are doing a lot of funny different things outside of music. So we try to have fun, talk about a little bit of this and that. And at the end of every episode, we give them parking tickets. So it goes with the thing. So
Nice. All right, let's get to the topic. And there's actually a lot of music to talk about this week. Drake dropped his seventh officially. I think he's had like 12 at this point, but it's officially his seventh album, Honestly Nevermind, and it is a house/dance album. And it's been I think his most polarizing project yet. And a lot of people have things to say. So A, have you listened? And B, what are your thoughts?
So I fuck with Drake. So I think for me, the biggest thing that I saw was the change in pace. So I saw that there's individuals such as Tory Lanez, The Weeknd. They both, if you saw how simultaneously both of their albums came out, it was both an 80s themed album. Very weird that these two very different artists from Toronto, of course, as well, came out with this album. Then Drake sort of did the same thing in the same vein. But he touched on, I don't know if you've listened to Vision's last album, and Muse and Her Feelings. That album, it felt like Drake was trying to copy that album because there were some songs on the Vision's album that kind of touched on the same kind of subject matter, just the same beats, the same.
Wait, the Vision's album by who?
Division. You never heard of Division?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Division. I actually never
Division.
call his name out loud. I always think DVSN.
So
Gotcha.
Drake is that a lot of the artists that go and sign to OVO Records don't actually come out. It's like a farm for Drake to just squeeze all this talent out. So honestly, when I heard his album, I heard a lot of Division's album. And I was a little mad about that because it was a lack of creativity for me. And I think for me, I was going into the album, of course, expecting Drake to be off his toxic masculinity shit, which is what we love him for. For him to jump into the dance space, I cannot say it's dance, first of all, because that's a disrespect to anybody who actually does dance music, who actually does that kind of music, because it's not really.
It's not quite dance. It's not quite house either, honestly. It's all like a range of like electronica, if you will, like just it's a bit of house, but it's just
cool, big lights, big production kind of thing. You're supposed to dance to it, but I will be honest with you, nothing made me want to dance, nothing made me want to move. I felt like it was very forced. Unfortunately, like it wasn't good. It was a attempt at doing something to me that I don't think was in his bag. So for me, I just wasn't.
Is that okay? But if you think about the fact that he did do Passion Fruit many years ago, and he's had other songs that kind of like,
and they were also produced by someone different. So the guy who produced this, Black
Coffee.
So Black Coffee is South African. He didn't implement the South African music. I mean, you're African. You've heard where the South African, I can't even pronounce it.
Amapiano.
What that kind of music is, and he didn't even implement that. So I thought that was a disservice to Drake. Drake should have definitely tapped into that because Drake supposedly is into Afro beats. He missed a big step because that's where Afro beats is right now. So for someone like everyone has been saying Drake was going to put out an R&B album. I think this was his R&B album, honestly. So this was his attempt at an R&B album.
I mean, he's definitely singing on most of the album. He only raps on 2 songs.
Except for the last three songs, Liability gives me like Houston kind of, because it's all slow. It's like screwed up.
I wasn't crazy about Liability. I will say, so actually, you know what? Let's pause for a second. What are your favorite top three on the album?
Sticky, Liability. Oh no, Sticky, and I think the one where he's like, "Pussy calling my
Fine.
name."
All right, yeah.
I love that part right there. Like that part. That's all I needed to hear. I was like, all right,
But that it only lasts for like a minute though. So the
that's
source
all
of
I need.
the
That's
okay,
all I need. That's all.
okay, gotcha. So I'll
Outside
say,
of course, the last track was 21 Savage. Both of them went crazy. I don't know who they're throwing shots at, but clearly somebody, both of them, or if you listen to the ad libs, Drake was agreeing that there's a part where 21 Savage says 20 shots that nigga survived, he lucky. And then Drake was like, damn, he lucky. So I'm like, who, what?
oh, so you see,
So
honestly, Eddie, I have to give it to you because this is something that I definitely miss about our conversation is that you really do listen to music in a very kind of just deep way. Like it's almost like you took a fine tooth comb because a lot of these things I kind of miss, right? And I think that I listen closely as well. But that is very interesting. I'm gonna go listen to Jimmy Cook's one last time to hear what I wasn't crazy about the song. I do think it has lots of quotables. I think the Will Smith line was funny, but it wasn't my favorite. So my top three on the album, I will say this is I guess ascending order. Currents, we number three. Sticky, number two, and my number one by far is Downhill. I think that's yes,
you don't
Downhill.
like Crooks? Like what?
Jimmy Cooks is good. I actually no, it's not. I mean, it's not terrible. I'm not. It sounds like something off of like the Certified Lover Boy sessions. It was that kind of like
Very much so. I would say that felt like early. I mean, 21 Savage carried that whole track, but I would say that was very much mixtape Drake, and the fact that it was almost like a throwaway track of just like throwing all types of shit. I feel like that was him
and that you just explained what my issue is. It sounds like a throwaway track. It wasn't particularly like listenable to me. It was I didn't enjoy it. I it was not my favorite. I'll say
wow.
this. So do you think Honestly Nevermind is better than Certified Lover Boy?
No,
Huh.
it's his worst album. It's literally his worst album. Yeah, I mean, it's always this. It's almost the same way as people say that Kanye's Ye or Yeezus is his worst album, or Kanye's 808s is his worst album, which we all know people are fans of both of those albums. But as far as his discography and putting everything into a full circle, you would say that's the one that falls in the lowest of the totem pole. And I would say
Gotcha.
this is the lowest in the totem pole because none of these songs are going to move any units. They're not going to push anything. They're not changing the genre. He might win some awards because I'll be honest with you, I also don't live. I mean, let's be real. Like, let's be honestly real. It's Gay Pride Month. It's like very strategic to drop this kind of music at
Oh,
this point.
I didn't realize that you subscribe to that school. So I've heard that I've seen that
No,
on
but it
Twitter.
makes sense. Beyonce just dropped the same thing and did the same. Like it just.
No. Yeah, let's table
He
Beyonce. We're talking about Beyonce next, right? So let's not jump to Beyonce yet.
P Valley just also premiered. Like all these things are all part of the Grand Master Plan. So of course, I feel like it makes sense to drop this kind of music at the end of the month, right before everything starts to wind down for Pride Month. I'm not gonna. I think that when it comes to analytics, I think a lot of labels have looked at who is purchasing music. We, as a community, I think as a Black community, we don't always purchase music in the same. I know a lot of people that buy their music till this day. I stream a lot of my music. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I know people still are iTunes users who like literally buy albums and they keep it forever, which is great. But me, I've streamed a majority of my albums. So I think record labels are looking at that and seeing that this is the demographic that actually purchases our music. This is the people that love our music, that will go to our concerts, and they're fans of us. And I think that's part of why it's random that these two major artists, all of a sudden put out literally the same kind of music. So, I mean,
So here's the thing, though, and I don't want to jump to Beyonce quite yet because I feel like that's a separate segment. I think it's interesting that people would think that Drake had like this whole like Pride Month strategy. I think it's interesting. I'll be really surprised if it were true, right? But who knows? But what I will say is that like artistically, it's just not that different from like I said, Passion Fruit, like, even other songs, like even on like I want to say Take Care. there was songs that kind of had like a slight, feel that we also experienced on Odyssey.
And he knocked it out of the fucking park every time. Blam, Passion Fruit, One Dance. He has done this several times, but he has done it to the point that he doesn't feel as forced as this. And I don't think it was that good. That's the problem.
Okay,
like,
so your issue is really just that the quality is just
not that. It's not. We're not talking Daft Punk. We're not talking K Nadra. I can't even say his name.
Trey Canada.
Yeah, all these people that actually do Calvin Harris. Like, I've heard, honestly, one thing about house music that I love is when the beat fucking drops. Half of the songs don't drop. There is no drop. It just continues with the same, and then it's his voice that does the dropping, and he's using his voice as an instrument, but his instrument sucks.
Damn.
So the point, he's using his voice as the instrument to like bring it down, and I'm like, when is the beat gonna drop? Which is part of, like, if you listen to like other like EDM music and music in that same genre, there's always
here's the thing. Let me stop you real quick. Like I said, like electronic music is really broad, so house and EDM are very different, and dance is different from EDM and house. They're not all quite the same, I don't think.
Okay, for me, as someone who's not a subscriber of that music to a simple degree, this is a layman. I would say this is a very broad view of the music genre. So for me, when I look at it, I am putting sort of in the same category. You're talking to somebody who went to a rave in London for like 9 p.m. to 11 a.m. I've been in the cut and squares. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen the lifestyle. So for me, when I heard his music, I didn't get that. But then when I listened to Division specifically, and he has a song called he has a few different songs. I'll have to look him up and see. But on that last album, there were songs on there that I really got the whole dance vibe, and I was like, I would rock to this. And another, I feel like he copied off of. So in Division's album, a lot of artists do this, but in Division's album, which is also in this camp, every track kind of just overlaps to the next track.
Right.
And also did. That's what really turned me off. It was like he copied and pasted.
No, I want to stop you. That's a house music convention, like house.
And so imagine me as someone who's seen all these artists that Drake has signed. Imagine Jordan to what was the guy that said Tuesday? That guy.
But I love McConan.
Yeah, all these gentlemen who have signed to Drake, and Drake has leashed off of them, taking some of his biggest hits from them, and they all just, where's Party Next Door? Like, bro, come on. Like, Drake has all these people signed to him, and none of them are doing shit but helping him grow bigger. Are doing
well, Party Next Door had an album just like a year or two ago, didn't he? One that had the
3 or 4 years ago. Party Next Door is locked in some camp writing for Rihanna right now, I'm very sure. Rihanna a lot of her hits, but outside of that, he himself is not, like, Drake doesn't promote his artists. Only time you see his artists is when they're featured on his shit. And Imagine Jordan has done a few songs outside of Drake's camp, but that's a very underrated artist that I feel like should get a lot more shine. And he also touches on the dance genre. Like, their music is beautiful, but Drake doesn't promote his artists at all. Like, OVO Records honestly is trash, and I wish it would. He has great artists, but he doesn't.
Tell us how you really feel, Eddie.
He doesn't do anything to actually build his record label to where I think it could be. And they're all homegrown. These are all individuals from Toronto. Like, I would wish. I mean, I could go on a crazy rant because he signed another guy.
Go for it.
He had another guy named Smiles, and that guy was rapping on a song. Drake killed the song, and then we never heard from anything from this guy Smiles anymore. It's like Drake has all these people that he co-signs and brings from Toronto and puts into his record label and says, this is the next guy, this is my boy. He does IG lives with them, he does pictures, and he leeches off of them, and then we never hear from nobody anymore. And Drake had, of course, the guy makes money. He goes on tour singing one song that Drake is featured on, and that's it. That's literally it. So at this point, like,
interesting.
I'm very disappointed, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I've tried. I felt like there was a TikTok that I listened to the other day, and it had this girl like saying, forcing yourself to listen to the Drake album.
I saw that.
You don't feel nothing.
I literally was doing that for myself because, like, you know what? When my circle said after track 6, they really digged it. I listened and listened, and I was just like, it's very good background music. I'm gonna be real with you. The instrumentals. I would rather have an instrumental of the album than his lyrics. Honestly, the
Huh.
instrument, the beats in the background, everything just sounds like a vibe. Like that.
Okay. So I don't think it's a terrible album. I just don't think it's great. So I gave it a 6.5 out of 10 on nohipstersallowed.com. What would you rate it?
It's a 2. It's a 2 out of. I do my ratings by 5s.
Okay.
I feel like 5s, you don't have too much to lean on. You have to be either here or there. So with a 5, you don't have too much. Like I can't give it a 7. No, I'm giving it a 2. It's a 2. It was a great.
2 out of 5.
Yeah, it's a 2 out of 5.
Okay, so that would be a 4 out of 10, which is still pretty low, but okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely a 5 for me because I feel like for Drake is great at making music. He's always been known to steal styles. Like, let's be real, Drake is a chameleon. He does what Lil Wayne does this very well. Lil Wayne will. So the reason Wayne is big is because he gets on other people's songs and he kills it, right? But what Wayne does is take your flow and does it better than you. Drake does that too. That's why people say he steals Afro beats or he's trying to rap like so-and-so or Bun B or the Migos or Future. He does that very well. But I don't think he had anybody to really lean on these albums. On this album, I would say in particular, there wasn't a muse for him to like work with to like, I'm going to implement this style. So I don't think there was anyone he had to create his own style. And when he had to like create his own style, I don't feel like he was able to really build that style up. So that's why I don't think it didn't really mesh. It was still the same subject matter, but it just didn't mesh.
Interesting. Well, see, but when did you say that having Black Coffee there was, I guess, a muse of sorts? Because Black Coffee.
I don't see what he did to make this yet. I mean, he was there, but what did he really do? So I looked up because I looked up his like discography and a few things that he did, and I was just like, who else has he worked with? Other artists. I didn't really see anything that stood out to me. So I was just like, what made Drake want to work with this guy? Because even his music doesn't really have this kind of like flow and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know what brought to the table, to be honest with you. But I think once you have a good formula, you should stick to it. So I think at the end of the album, Drake was like, honestly, never mind. And that's why he went into his bag, which is him and 21 Savage killing it.
You thought that he was making the album just like, hey, fuck it, like, nah.
Yeah, I think he was Look, Drake has already said he was going to do an all R&B album. I think this was kind of part of his all R&B album.
That couldn't be the case. It wasn't R&B. So
he was mostly singing on this album or harmonizing, like doing some Nelly shit where he harmonizes, but he wasn't rapping, so to speak. So I would think almost like a weak attempt at his R&B album. If Drake was to do an R&B album, it would be so bad if he has to sing the whole time, to be honest with you. Like, there's so many tracks where his voice, like, just, you're like, bruh, could have auto-tuned it. They could something. That's not it.
Let's talk about Break Your Soul by the one, the only Beyonce, who is back to basically, reclaim her throne. I think the amount of excitement she brings to music is, I think, unparalleled still. No one makes people as excited. You just don't see the same amount of Twitter activity with anybody. And so the song was announced, and, it actually ended up coming a few hours early because it got leaked. And so it is I will say, like a true house song, right? Except it has more R&B feel because Beyonce's singing it, right? And it samples Show Me Love by Robin S. from the early 90s. And also has Big Freedia's Explode. I will just go right ahead and say that I love Break Your Soul. I think is a solid track. I think it is very different for Beyonce. I think it is perfect for the season. And I'm excited for this album. What are your thoughts?
It was okay. It was okay. Like, so Beyonce is definitely doing something. She's up to something, which is great. I I didn't listen to the whole thing because I'm kind of worn down, honestly. After listening to Drake's attempt and then her doing it, it just feels like the music, hip hop to me, or our genre of music to us, is very emulated of what's going on in the world and the culture. And it's just very like copycat-ish. So I was just like, expecting that. I was just like, you're doing the same thing Drake just did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean, but here's the thing though: the releases came just days apart, so I don't think that's enough time for people to copy.
oh, how are these artists, like, come on, think about it. Like, how is Tory Lanez and The Weeknd all of a sudden make an 80s theme album? How is Drake and Beyonce making the exact same sort of dance music? Like, that to me is like, and they're both not artists that do these things. So it's very like, we're going to make a concept album, but the concept is the exact same thing. That
I
doesn't.
mean, also, I won't be. So I don't think what Beyonce did is quite exactly like what Drake did. I think it's under the same umbrella of music for sure, but I think what she did was like true house, and what Drake did was a little different, right? And so, and also, I want to say that, listen, sometimes like music, like these people, they're human beings as well, right? So they create music, but they're also music fans. And I think when you think about what we're all listening to the same thing, so it's not that far fetched for people to have the same influences at the same time, or like, yeah, think about it though. Is it
No.
no? Okay.
Drake, like, we're talking about Drake. So we're talking about Beyonce and Drake. Beyonce had a whole album that was geared towards Black empowerment, all these things, and she created Afro beats from what Rolling Stones wrote. So for this woman who's this creative, I cannot sit here and say that her writing camp and Drake's writing camp both came up with the same exact idea within the same 2-3 years. I just can't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't believe that these two artists who have very, very different lifestyles, like, these are two very different people. They're not even.
Well, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. Is it like it's not? They're only a set amount of genres to like, you know.
Exact same thing. They could have made Latin music, for Christ's
Right,
sake.
but I'm saying, but think about what genres are even like feasible for these two artists,
Drake.
and think about all the music they've made so far. Like, to me, it just doesn't seem that far fetched that they both had the similar like ideas as far as where they wanted to go direction wise. And also, let me add this. So people were saying that Drake rushed the Honestly Nevermind release. At first, I thought that was far fetched, but now I think that's a real possibility that he found out that
He was
B was.
celebrating that he
What'd you
wanted.
say?
He was literally celebrating a championship that he won at his house. He sent the
Right.
to his record label 2 days before it came out and said, "I want this out." So I think maybe a little birdie came in his ear and told him, "Hey, Beyonce, I'm hearing Beyonce's album might be a dance kind of thing." And he's like, "Oh shit, I have a dance thing." But that's so weird. Like, how are these two very different people, light skinned, children? Drake is starting around sleeping with Instagram models and signing NDAs. All of a sudden, with these, like, come on, I'm not buying shit. I'm really not.
I listen. It's maybe I mean it's not that far fetched to me, but I understand how like you might feel that way now. But the whole idea that Drake rushed that album makes perfect sense to me. Like he must like someone had to have told him like, yo, B's dropping this album.
Features to help carry the album. I think you could have you can't work with Rihanna, but Rihanna's done some records like that before where she's held her own. Even Nicki Minaj, like Lady Gaga, like you could have really did something with this, like really.
I actually like the fact that there weren't many features. I'm kind of tired of how like just everything's a collab these days. I like to see artists stand on their own.
Oh, Chris Brown's new album is feature heavy, but I like that. I like when artists work with other artists. Like for me, I heard you by yourself several times, so it's like, especially when you're changing genres. I would, if I was doing Afrobeat album, right? I would definitely lead other Afrobeat, like people who are pioneers in this industry who have done this. Like I would talk to Granada or whatever his name is, Daft Punk maybe, even
Granada.
Even sample it, like sample it, even if you don't work with them, sample their shit. Like those is like, it's common sense. I would definitely leech on that, but I think he was really like, I'm going to hold my own in this genre, which is great, and he's going to probably win some awards because God only knows what kind of awards they win. So he might get some shit. But Beyonce's also making it, so he's not
Yeah,
gonna.
well, it's actually so it's funny. So people were talking about how like the next Grammys are going to be the most competitive yet because you have Drake, Beyonce, Adele, all in the same like scoring period, and a few other people with major.
Adele's album is going to be nominated. Drake, so Drake also is boycotting the Grammys. He doesn't
Right.
submit
So he might not be nominated at all actually because he's
his album anymore. But Adele will be in most different in a lot of different categories outside of
oh
like
no, we're talking about the general category. So album of the year, song of the
yeah,
year.
album of the year. But we're already can we already say Beyonce has album of the year? Like we got to stop doing that.
I think Adele has been a clear favorite at the Grammys for her entire career. So I think she's probably
Yeah,
gonna take it again.
I didn't hear a single song from that album. So what I'll really do? And outside of that, let's be fucking honest again, man. I feel like everybody shitted on Drake's album, and Beyonce just did the exact same thing. We're hypocrites. It's the exact same shit. I don't care if Big Frida was on there. It's the exact same.
No.
And these are two don't do this, and they did the exact same thing.
It's
guys,
not. It's not.
It's because y'all like Beyonce. Let's be real. It's Beyonce and the
No.
Beehive.
Oh no. So you're talking to someone who's a Drake fan. I like both of them, and I also didn't think that I gave Drake's album a better rating than you did, right?
You can't be a Drake fan and you don't like the last track. That doesn't make sense. That's literally Drake.
That's not classic Drake to me. It sounds like a 21 Savage record than anything else.
He said, if you're not a model, don't tell me you model if you've never been in Vogue. That is definitely Drake. That's petty Drake.
No. I mean, of course, we have like his way of like his shit talking and all that. But I'm just saying, just sonically, instrumentation wise, that's not the sound I think of when I think classic Drake. Do you know what I mean?
What is your favorite Drake album?
Views by far.
Oh God.
There we go. What?
No, Views was one of his worst albums.
Okay, all right. So we know. So now I think the issue here is that you don't have taste. Okay, all right. I think we established that.
And the reason why it's Take Care is because The Weeknd wrote most of that album.
No, I think Take Care is the second best.
It's his best to me, and then after that, it's Nothing Was Ever the Same. But we can.
Wait, actually, no. I think we're kind of on the same page as far as top three. Yeah, Nothing Was Ever the Same. Yeah. Okay.
I love Drake. I love Lil Wayne. I love the YMCMB camp. Like, Nicki Minaj is a Sagittarius. Like, I fuck with everything she puts out. So when it comes to their kind of rapping and the way they talk about like subject matters, they're storytellers. They paint pictures that most artists dream of painting, and I fuck, especially with The Weeknd. So when it comes to like their kind of music, I fuck with it. So when I heard Beyonce shit, I felt like I think I was just worn out from Drake. So for me, it was like
worn out It was like 3 days later. What are you talking about?
So much, and then after that, Beyonce does the exact same thing.
It was not the exact same.
Look. I really don't know how people didn't have fatigue, and they were already so quickly to say Beyonce made this and that, bruh.
Okay,
y'all not being honest. Let's just be real. People aren't being honest.
Wow.
So do you think that Beyonce's album is going to be a completely dance album, or is it just this one track?
So Edward Enninful, who's the editor-in-chief of British Vogue. What did you say?
Who the fuck is that?
The editor-in-chief of British Vogue, who spoke with Beyonce for her cover, feature on the magazine. What did you say?
Beyonce talks?
Okay.
I
think what we're discovering as the conversation progresses is that you don't like Beyonce that much.
No,
that's fair.
No. I love Beyonce.
Okay.
Beyonce, like Jay-Z's one of my favorite rappers. Beyonce is a beast. I love the fact that she sampled African artists. I love that she discovered Afro beats. Like, I am a big Beyonce fan.
Okay. All right. But anyways,
no, Flawless. I all the lyrics to Flawless. Like, that's my shit.
Okay, good.
I fuck with Flawless.
But to your point, to answer your question, Edward Enninful from Vogue said that the album sounds like the clubs of his youth. And so this is someone who was born in the early 70s. So he's probably talking about like late 80s, early 90s dance sounds. So I think we're going to get a lot of songs that sound like Break Your Soul. And also the shoot for the cover story was very like dancey disco, like, you know, shiny kind of like.
Fancy.
What'd you say?
It looked like Renaissance. I didn't see it as a dance.
Right, also, exactly. And the Renaissance, like, you know, it looked like just like basically trying to like bring back old styles. And so, you know, it's interesting. I'm excited to see what it's going to be about. I do think it's going to be upbeat, and I think we need that right now.
So is Edward?
But anyways,
Edward used to basically do the club scene in London or maybe in the U.S. So that means he's probably white, right?
no, he's actually Ghanaian. So he's Ghanaian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, but he grew up in the UK, so he's talking about so that's why, you know, some people thought, oh, maybe he's talking
Their
about
music
like,
is great. I'll be honest. So you know what they say about things in Europe. They're usually 2 years ahead of us when it comes to music and a lot of different things. So when Drake was even in Europe and he was doing the whole rapping style of grime, when the UK, people didn't really fuck with it, but then later on they gravitated towards it. So UK, they've always been ahead of us. So as far as the EDM and dance stuff, they've already been light years ahead of us playing that music. But
so that's it. I was actually explaining that to someone earlier today. Like the way we think of EDM here is a little different. Like it's like they listen to that all the time. It doesn't like go in and out of trend. Like that's music that they listen to all the time. So they don't have any like
and all these other, like even Dave, I'm sure a few of them have already rapped on certain beats that are like that. It's almost like,
you know, actually another conversation that came up was Azealia Banks and how she's been doing this for a decade and how she deserves
person.
What are you saying?
Nobody cares because she's a terrible person.
Fair.
Because she's done very good though in that genre.
Yeah. But she's
that population loves her music, but she is a toxic individual, so she'll never get the accolades she deserves. She will never, and that's her fault. It's completely her fault. It's completely her fault. She's very talented, but she just is a terrible human being sometimes.
Ouch.
Making some very cold facts. There's so many times she touches on topics and I'm like, this girl's smart. But
she's like a clock. She's like, basically she's like right twice a day, but like every other time, like she's just like off. You know, tangent.
Too much. She's a beast. I fuck with her.
But and it's worth knowing that she is diagnosed with mental illness. So it's, you know, that's everybody, I think important.
Over it. Everybody.
The views of our guests don't represent the views of No Hipsters Pod. Just wanted to say that on record.
No. When it comes to mental health, like I agree, people do go through things, and then we're all diagnosed with different things. But I do feel like a lot of people use that to be like, "Hey, I'm an asshole because I'm going through something," and it's like, no, you don't get to just be and say certain things just because you're dealing with what you're dealing with. And I think that people are now using that as an excuse. It was almost like when Kanye went on his crazy rant for 3 months, just being
Don't get me started on Kanye West. Winners and losers. Eddie, since you're the guest, I will let you go first.
As far as losers, I would say Biden is a loser for selling us a bunch of BS to the Black community. And honestly, we're not getting much from this administration just yet. I would also say losers are the gun lobbyists who continue to say, hey, we at the NRA, we all have guns. We have millions of guns. If we were shooting people, you would know. But regardless, they're not doing anything to justify the killing of children. And it continues to happen. They're demolishing the school, but they're not stopping the selling of guns to certain age groups and people. It's very easy to get a gun. So they definitely are stupid, or losers, whatever we want to call them. And I also want to give like an honorable mention of losers to HBO for the simple fact that they continue to tell us that they are going to do something to fix the Game of Thrones that they did to us. I am a huge Game of Thrones fan. They have a new season coming out. It's a prequel. House of Dragons. And it looks great. And I'm still traumatized with the fact that the 2 last seasons of Game of Thrones were so terrible, so terrible. And I'm like, you guys are not about to do this to me again. So they are going to be losers for me. As far as winners, I want to say Drake is a winner because he knew exactly what he was doing. His marketing team did what they were supposed to do, and his record is going to sell. He's going to win awards in a genre that he never won, and he's also going to go #1 again. And he dropped his album on Kendrick's birthday, so that's how you do it. If you want to be petty, I keep telling people the best Drake is petty Drake, and the best Rihanna is thick Rihanna. Like when they do it, they do it well. So
Wait, you think Kendrick and Drake have a feud?
They've always, yes. If you listen to the song that Kendrick did with Big Keem, or Big Keem's song with Kendrick, there was a line where Kendrick was basically saying, I could go through all the subs that Kendrick threw on his new album. He mentioned how when he saw Kanye and Drake make up, he was confused and he was like, why are they doing that? Then outside of that, he also said, I'm top 5. I don't know, fuck your top 5. Because there was a talk about J. Cole, Drake, and him, and who's better, who's this, who's that. And he basically said, fuck your top 5. I'm your top 5. Which could be taken as a shot at J. Cole, but we all know him and J. Cole are very cool. So we know who he's really talking about. And I think he's talking about
Really?
Yeah. And Big Keem also has a verse at the end of the song where he says, when after Kendrick said, fuck your top 5, I'm your top 5, fuck your 2, blah, blah, blah. And then Big Keem says, #2 DM my girl, but something. He basically saying that the #2 artist, who's quote unquote Drake, we know what Drake does. Drake DMs girls. He said, but that's fine. He said, #2 DM my girl, but that's fine. Fuck your top 5. So they both were throwing shots. So at the end of the day, Drake said, I bet I'm going to drop my album on your birthday. Ta-da.
But see, so that actually basically calls into question whether or not the album was rushed. Because remember we said that he rushed it because of the Beyonce release. So that would mean the release date was premeditated and it had nothing to do with Beyonce.
Eyes on the wall.
Both can't be true. Both can't be true. So which is it? Which is it?
Drake is petty. I believe that he did both. I believe that they said, these are the dates, these are the releases, let's do it like this. And he said, all right, bet. And he said it just very conveniently be on his birthday. Boom.
Both.
Could be both.
Quite fanciful, but I'll let you have that.
Hey,
so are you done with your winners?
You don't believe me? One of the record label owners of TDE went online and he deleted the post now, but he said Drake is very petty for dropping this album on my boy K Dot's B-Day. So even if we don't want to believe it, somebody else in there can't believe it. So you do with what you want with that information.
Wow.
It's a conspiracy till it comes true. So even when you like shoot in the dark and you say these people are doing this, like there was many years where people said Kendrick, when people were saying Kanye and Jay-Z aren't friends, and people were like, how can you say that? They just made an album together. They did this. And then come to find out they weren't friends for like 5 years.
Interesting.
His wedding, he didn't do none of that. Like these artists be beefing and nobody be knowing. Nobody know it.
Huh. All right. So, okay, my losers. I would say my first loser is Nick Cannon for being extremely irresponsible and having 2 kids.
The win.
What do you say? No, I think his, just what he's doing right now at this point is ridiculous. He has 2 kids on the way, so that it will be his 8th and 9th. Yeah, I listen. It makes no sense, but we're not about to there's everything, all that needs to be said about Nick Cannon has been said at this point, but I just think definitely he's wilding. The police in Uvalde, absolutely losers. What did you say?
I agree. I'm agreeing.
Right. Yeah, because just all the information that keeps coming out, apparently that the key that they were looking for to get into the door, they didn't actually need because the door was open the entire time. They had ballistic shields and rifles and had enough equipment to actually go into the room, and they didn't. And the gunman had been in there for like an hour. One of the 2 teachers who got killed, her husband, who happens to be a police officer, tried to go in and he got detained. Just all the new details that are coming out this week are just absolutely terrible. So Uvalde police are absolutely losers. So my winners, I have to say Beyonce. I think just the fact that she can make everything she does. What do you say?
You're predictable.
What did you say?
You're predictable. You're predictable.
I'm predictable. Oh, yeah, what? I'll be that. Beyonce's the winner. I think just the amount of excitement that she's been able to create with her music, I think is a beauty to watch. Like I love being excited about music. I love seeing people get like excited about music. And I think that's kind of what's lost in the industry. Like it's just also just the celebrities are just not as grand as they used to be. So I love to see what she's doing right now. I think it's going to be a great summer for music. And yeah, I honestly, good times. What a time to be alive, honestly. And honestly, just because the
Oh,
and before I go, because you were talking shit about Biden, hold up. Because you're talking shit about Biden, let me say Biden is also my winner. He's brought unemployment rather, to record lows. He has
because everyone has two jobs. Everybody has two jobs. The fuck is
tell
he
me
doing?
You're misinformed without telling me you're
Or
misinformed.
Biden.
Tell me you're misinformed and uninformed without telling me you're misinformed.
Everybody got two jobs. Imagine the motherfucking telling them.
Listen, I think you guys are playing a dangerous game. No, let me just say this before we wrap up. I think you guys are playing a dangerous game with like the Biden hate train, because what you don't understand is that Republicans are basically about to like make democracy a thing of the past with what they're doing. And I really hope everyone is watching news and seeing what they're doing as far as like elections and trying to like install Secretary of States that would actually basically throw out election results. There is nothing Biden is doing that makes him so bad that we would risk Republicans getting into power. And I really am saying this just not to you, but everyone else who's listening. This is not a joke. Like this year, 2024, we're like, people need to get out and vote, because after a while, none of this will even matter, because you will never be able to elect a Democrat ever again.
I'm not a politician. I'm not into politics as much. But
well, you had strong opinions if you're not into politics. So
yes, because as someone who votes, and I know plenty of people that vote, our lives.
Okay.
I would say we have been very loyal to certain parties, and I don't feel. And then what happens is that I feel like every election cycle, the same thing happens. They pander. They tell us exactly what they want, what our communities want to hear, and unfortunately, when it comes to things, we don't get any kind of repercussions. We don't get anything that's done for our communities. Let you land.
I get what you're saying, right? But I get what you're trying to say. But I really think
you land.
Okay.
So when it comes to like certain things that I've seen so far, I saw the hate for Asian community supposedly, and within a week they got a sign, they got signatures and things like that, and they got an executive order for their harassment and beating and things like that. The Black community has been crying and screaming throughout this entire 2-3 years of the police killing, brutality, shootings, so many different things, and asked for some kind of legislation, anything. We have got nothing. But as soon as 3 Asian people in New York got beat up, all of a sudden it was like, we got to make sure we stop that hate train. And then, of course, we as Black people were the ones who were also said to be the ones causing the violence. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel like we always get the short end of the stick when it comes to elections. I don't think people are going to vote this year or the year before or the year after. And unfortunately, we will probably have to deal with the consequences. And I don't think anything was going to change even.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think your points are invalid. I do think that you and a lot of other people might be underestimating just how, for lack of a better term, hated Black people are, and how anything that sounds.
But we are also the reason why most people.
No. Let me finish. I think you have to understand how, because we are so, I think, hated, any legislation that even indirectly looks like it directly benefits Black people is met with opposition in a way that nothing else is. It's the same reason why even anything that is presented as for the public good is, hated on sight, because what a lot of people read is, oh, it's for Black people. So whether or not it's like expanding access to healthcare or anything that feels like, okay, this is for the public good, the idea is that, oh, it's for Black people. So people meet it with a lot more fight than they do anything else. And so this is not excusing like Democrats. I'm just trying to really help people see just the realities of the political landscape in America. So we can go on for on. I think you need to remember that the alternative is to have a party that is basically a white supremacist organization in power. And
But the
so,
second,
what are you saying?
I feel like the other party, I mean, we could take this offline at some point, but I feel like the other party has already been muscling and doing everything they wanted to. I don't feel like they've gotten any no's. They've pretty much been doing everything they've wanted to do.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's been grit. No, it's been gridlocked to recently when we now have like a super majority in the Supreme Court and they're about to repeal Roe v. Wade. And this is from years of just chipping away, right? And years of people just not doing what they need to. You could actually draw a straight line between what's happening in the Supreme Court and the 2016 elections, and which is why I like to stress that people like remain 10 toes down and vote even when they're not thrilled about the politicians that more closely align their beliefs. So yes, the Democrats are not perfect. They will never be perfect. And if you want to test like just how hard this is, I really challenge people to go run for office themselves and see if you will be able to like actually successfully deliver on all the things that you want to get done. And so no, this is it's just not that easy.
Something on my laptop. I apologize. I wasn't rolling my eyes.
No, okay. It looked like it, but
Awesome.
Okay.
And I was laughing.
No big deal, no big deal. But anyways, yeah, that was I really just want to get that point out there because I think what you said, even though you're just going off the top of your head, I really think it amounts to voter suppression in the sense that people just feel like fuck both parties and now not vote, and when that happens, Republicans win. So please, everybody, get out and vote and
vote or die.
Right. Exactly that. Vote or die. But anyways, Eddy, thank you so much for stopping by. Definitely, I hope you come back. Tell people where they can find you on social media.
Holla at me at Eddy Midnite. Also, No Parking on Sundays podcast on Spotify and iTunes podcast and Google Podcast. So, No Parking on Sundays. You know what we do. And Eddy Midnite.
All right. Episode 16, No Hipsters Pod. Talk to you next time. Peace.